Every parents want to be the safest place for their kids to land. We want our kids to come to us with their biggest questions, their doubts, and their confusions long before they turn into a search engine or social media. The good news is we don't have to have every answer or to be perfect communicators to do a fantastic job. By choosing small, warm, and honest conversation over awkward silence, we can give our children the clarity, dignity, and the confidence they need to thrive in today's world. Welcome back to the Salt and Light podcast. Today, family counselor Migy Sajan from the Solace Centre in Kerala, India, joins us to share practical, encouraging roadmap on how every parent can build a home filled with trust, truth, and grace. Let's dive in. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Salt and Light podcast. I know it has been some time before the last episode, so I am really excited to bring it back again. And today, I am joined by family counselor Migy Sajan from Kerala, and she runs a counseling center called the Solace Centre. And today, we wanted to focus on some of the parental issues and issues both in terms of counseling, parenting, and how to navigate the complex world as such we are in, and how we can raise kids in a godly way with their full support. So that's what we are going to cover in the podcast. And Migy, thank you so much for joining today. I know we had a good back and forth on this, especially the tech. So I'm really glad that we are able to finally do this today. And I really hope and believe that this will be a very fruitful session. So yes, Migy, if you want to quickly introduce yourself, what's your role and what your professional life looks like?
Thanks, Sherin. Thanks for having me here. I am Migy Sajan. I'm a counselor based in India. I've been working in this field for the past 13 years, and I focus mainly on adolescents and families. Over the years, I've realized that one of my greatest passion is simply being a listener, creating a safe space where people feel heard without judgment, and then you understand what struggles they go through. And then eventually that opens the door to meaningful changes. And you see how individuals and families, they grow stronger when they feel supported, when they feel understood. So yeah, helping them build resilience, find hope, create healthier connections is truly rewarding. And I think that's what keeps me passionate about counseling.
Thank you. It's very interesting you put that your passion is to listen, which is such a rare quality these days. So when you're growing up as a child in school or college, would you felt that this is what you wanted to do, or you realized it at the later stage of your life?
No, I don't think I had anything like that to help people. But yeah, growing up, I always admired my dad, who was a banker, and I also loved teaching. So I thought I might end up becoming a banker or a teacher. But then, however, my career took a different path. I got married, lived in Dubai, worked in accounts, purchases, and finally quality. So during these years, I came to Pentecostal faith and I experienced the power of the Holy Spirit. And during that season, I received a prophetic confirmation that God has called me to become a counselor. So that was the beginning of that. That's when I had no clue what a counselor was. I hadn't heard about, what a counselor is. And looking back, I can see how God prepared me all along. People used to come to me, share their struggles, seek advice. And I found that I genuinely enjoyed listening to them. So years back, later, when I returned to India, my life took a turn. And then to help myself, I pursued, the necessary degrees in counseling. And today, surely by God's grace, I have the privilege of helping individuals and families. And I truly believe that this is God's purpose for me. And this is exactly where God wants me.
Oh, that is amazing. Such a clear-cut path of career at one stage.
Yeah.
It's truly amazing. I hope it could have been for me, because I am an accountant by profession.
Oh, good.
over the period of life, I have been pulled in very different directions, and hence this podcast probably. But having such clear cut, sense of direction is amazing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I've also realized like you can achieve your dreams at any age. Like
Mm,
I did my counseling when I was 40. So you see
yeah,
how God
how
takes
many?
us. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How he
Yeah.
moves us.
Yeah, that's great. Just one point, one more question before we delve a bit deep. In your daily work as a counselor, what is the most common reason for which the parents come to you?
One of the most common concerns parents bring to counseling is screen time. Like how much is too much? How to set healthy boundaries with their children. Another area I often see is behavioral challenges or you see anger, where parents want to understand what's behind their child's reactions and how they can respond better. So yeah, and then of course I think relationships, that's also there. So where it's between parents and adolescents or within the family as a whole. So I think basically these three, screen time, behavior, and relationships, they tend to be the main reasons that parents reach out.
And is that only parents reach out? Do you have like, young teenagers or young adults as your patients?
Yes, yes, I do. I focus mainly on adolescents and families. So surely, like adolescents are there, they often come with concerns about, around depression, anxiety, stress. It'll be mostly managing with. So yeah, I do have adolescent clients.
Okay, thank you, Miggy, for that. I'm in a sense, I'm a bit glad that young adults do come, because at least it is not seen as a bit taboo in these days, which is such a great thing to have. Like I have been a constant, so I have been getting therapy constantly from as early as 2016, and one of mine got yesterday over. Like, so I have been continuously doing that, and it has been such. I mean, it has been such a help for me, and the
Okay.
concerns and things gets keeps changing,
Yeah.
but to have somebody who could listen to and provide advice is a massive help, especially in these times. Now to segue, this thing called these times, when I talk to people of who are in their 60s and 70s, so parents of my age, one thing which they always mention is that you know this is a modern problem, which is a modern phenomena. Like in Malayalam, they say, "Idokke innate prashna."
Yeah.
Like, none of these things
Yeah.
existed
We hear that. Yeah.
previously. Yeah. So issues around parenting, kids not listening to you, or even, the whole things around sexuality. Do you really feel that these are modern time problem? And, 50, 60 years back, things are all right. It's just that, after the break of internet, this, modern timing is a problem and not people per se.
Well, I don't think these problems are entirely new. Mental health issues, addictions, and relationship challenges have always existed. So even 50 or 60 years ago, families faced them. But the nature of those challenges was different. They were often hidden or stigmatized or rather explained away. So what changed today is the world children are growing up in. It is this world that has changed. So, what feels different today is how emotionally fragile our children are. They have grown up in a world of instant gratification, like instant food, instant entertainment. They have Instagram, instant answers. So, if they send a message, they expect a reply right away. If they want something, they want it now. 30, 40 years back, life was slower. Like we waited for weeks for a letter to arrive or, months of other waitings. So patience was part of everyday life and resilience was built through waiting, working, face to face relationships.
Mhm,
Like we could be on our bed without falling asleep for 2 hours and still be okay with it.
mhm,
But today, fast paced, technology and social media, they have they have created a culture where waiting feels unbearable, and that makes emotional struggles more visible. So today's parents are navigating issues like smartphones, social media, online gaming, exposure to inappropriate content, and a much faster pace of life. And at the same time, many families, they have less support, from extended families. Parents have demanding work schedules. And moreover, children, they face influences that previous generations never experienced. So while these issues themselves are not new, the way they show up in this generation is very much shaped by the modern world. So it has definitely introduced new challenges and amplified the many existing ones. That's what happened. That's what I believe.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Because now when I compare myself growing up and I see how my 6-year-old daughter is growing up, I
Yeah.
can see the difference. She knows so much
Yeah.
about things which I wasn't, even aware when I was growing up, when like 10 or 12, like
Yeah.
how she would explain away certain things. And she still insists on, like, things has to be for somebody's choice. About it can't be, you say this, or I would have to explain even small things. If I say her to do something, she's like, why, can you just tell me why? And then I could do it. And I was like, no, my dad never gave me that freedom, and I
Yeah.
never asked my dad or mom, okay, why you want me to do this particular thing, because we were not
Yeah.
grown up by that thing. So do you feel that parents who are, in their 50s and 60s, are they aware of, the changes? I mean, they know in a sense that these changes have happened, but when it comes to dealing with their, kids, whether from a family perspective, whether even in a church or like a social setting like school, do you think they are like actually conscious about these changes has happened? Like one example is, pride marches and pride month. Like, I am being so desensitized now that it doesn't even occur to me that a separate event is happening. Or when I see somebody in a, rainbow dress and all, oh yeah, fair enough, he's living his life, I am living my life, I don't bother him, he don't bother me, which has been very common to, for us now. Is
Yeah.
that parents are not consciously aware of these things, or they're not thinking about that these things have actually in the world, and in the environment where the kids are living, are very much tempered by it?
Well, parents who are now in their 50s or 60s grew up in a very different world, as I mentioned earlier. I mean, this is a very different world. So parents of 50 or 60s, they grew up in a very different world. So in my younger years, like I'm one of those 50s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
in
yeah.
my younger years, topics like homosexuality or gender identity were rarely spoken about. It was often hidden, like surrounded by stigma. So I got to know these existed from the Bible, like during Lot's time, during Noah's time. You see, the Bible says that. So otherwise, no conversations, no pride events existed. And we just didn't talk about it. Like today, however, those same parents are raising children in a world where these conversations are visible and unavoidable. Yeah. So media, globalization, and can say social media platforms, they have brought issues of sexuality and identity into everyday life. Like they are right in front of our eyes.
Mm.
So they are established and legally there. Some parents in this age group may still feel uncomfortable, confused, or can be even unaware.
Mm.
Many are becoming more aware and open because their children are asking questions and the society is encouraging them. So while parents in their 50s or 60s may not have grown up with this awareness, I think now they are learning to navigate it because it is right there. They are living with it. In our societies too, in Kerala too, we have pride events. Like last month, June was the Pride month. So colors, were there. So we are aware of it. I'm sure at least 80% should be aware. But we don't talk about it in our homes. in our
Mhm.
churches.
Mhm.
We are quite silent about it still, but
Mhm.
it's there in the society around us.
Uh, So why do you think that being quiet or being not talk about it, is it a is it a good thing, or is it more dangerous that we don't talk about it upfront with the kids?
See, when parents avoid talking about important life topics, children are left to figure things out on their own, often through peers, again, social media, or, unreliable sources. So this can be dangerous. This is not right, simply not right, because they're learning things not from us, from outside. So this can be dangerous because silence creates confusion. It creates shame and misinformation. So adolescents, when they go through it, when they go through stuff like this, they may feel isolated, thinking, their struggles are abnormal or unacceptable. For example, if parents never discuss issues like sexuality or addictions or relationships, children may turn to the internet or friends for answers, right? They can actually mislead them. They may not be always right. So silence also sends an unintended message that these topics are taboo or too uncomfortable to talk about. So that can push children to hide their feelings, you know, leading to secrecy, risky behavior, or even mental health struggles. So we are actually harming our children by not having conversations about these topics. Yeah. So silence is no longer protection. We need to guide them. When we guide them how a child evolves, forms. So it is like guidance is what we need to give them. We need to provide and no more silence.
Mm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's well and good when we say that parents needs to talk. The next question arises is that how, because these are not easy questions to kind of talk to, and we don't know whether we should make the move first, or the kids should make the move first, and also what to talk, or like how to talk, because in school there's not much thought. At least when I was studying in the school, that whole chapter was completely ignored in biology or any other discussion around that. Do you think that parents needs to get trained to have such conversation, or it is just that they have the skills, it is just in need of courage and a bit of effort from the parents side to have a talk? And at what age it should start? When they go to college, or when they are at you know standard 10, something like that? What do you feel about it?
See, as we mentioned earlier, silence is never going to help.
Mm.
And when we say parents, see, it's a relationship, right? And they need to have open conversations with their kids. They need to build trust. The foundation of any relationship is trust, and trust is built through listening. Listening without judgment. Open conversations build trust. Now, how do we do that? When parents talk honestly and respectfully, when parents respond calmly, even to difficult questions, children learn that they won't be shamed or punished for being honest. So they feel safe to share, ask questions, and seek guidance. Here, something that is important is having consistency. If a father or mother shows up regularly, not just in big moments, but in everyday conversations, then the child feels secure. Like small gestures like asking about their day or showing interest in their hobbies or, creating a safe environment. Also, parents can share a little about their own struggles or mistakes. It tells the child it's okay not to be perfect. That openness, encourages children to be real with their own feelings. So yes, parents need to have conversations. They need to respect and accept what kids are going through. They need to understand the society, and a combination of all this, like listening with consistency, openness, respect, that creates a relationship where children feel free to ask any question, and they can share. So they the age group, that need not be like, you don't have to wait till the child becomes an adolescent, the child comes up to the teenage age to talk about these things. These need to be, these need to, you need to get started with this at the age of 3. That is what I believe. Before they go into schooling and all that, you can start with it. And that will help them. That will create, that will help the child also to trust parents. And that'll be the beginning. Like 3 years is a very good age. Not exactly to tell them very, openly about sexuality or identity, but then who they are, you know, a good creation, God's creation. You can start like that. I hope I answered you.
Yes. That was really helpful. So I know, these days, smartphones are kind of the biggest problem, not just from a young or adolescent's perspective, even from a, grown up perspective.
Yeah.
I was in somebody's house, I think, a couple of years back, and the uncle was, doing his YouTube thing, and at the same time, he was telling his son to kind of stop the laptop and study, and like, you're full time, you are doing this. And I jokingly told to him that, you know what, uncle, you should stop this. And he immediately panicked, like, hey, no, what will I do if I, don't have this? So I feel, and I have now noticed across board, even from a, family, friends perspective, even at church, I've figured out that although we blame the teens and the youngs that you're always on the phone, I have seen the exactly same thing with me, myself, and even, my people in my age group and who are a bit older than us having the same problem of this.
Yeah.
Everybody on, and one of the day, and when I try to talk to them, but one of the thing which they challenge me, oh well, I am watching good content, so what's the harm in it? Which is basically news, political news, and somebody, like, some people watch sermons and all, but then mostly is just political news. That's what, they get the high on.
Yeah.
What do you think is fundamentally wrong with smartphones or, the social media current is? Because one thing I feel that as of now, you can't take it away. My own daughter asked me when you will open my Instagram account, or why can't you post my pictures on Instagram? So she knows what is Instagram, what is Facebook, and what different things, each of the app does. So what do you think has actually gone wrong with the smartphone or the social media, that it has become a problem?
See, it's exactly like the world that we are in today. We are living in a world of technology, of social media. Now, this is not going to die off. This is really going to increase, right? We are going to have even a faster pace of living. We're not going to. Our life is not going to slow down at all. So then we really can't blame kids. They need the use of smartphones. They need labs and all that for even for their education system, like even for their notes and, for their learning and education. They do have to, have access to these systems. So you really can't take them away from them. And then there is no self-control. That is what we lack. If that parent had self-control, the fruit of self-control, it wouldn't, he would be able to control. This is what we lack here. It's not that like we have the advantages of smartphones or internet, social media. It's not completely wrong. I mean, we know that it creates a lot of awareness. Like we are going to post this podcast is going to happen. We're going to post it on the internet. So yes, we need such awareness classes or such things are important. But the way how each one uses it, there it's definitely self-control that we need to implant in us. It shouldn't be, something as it shouldn't come as something that's going to control us, not like that, but it needs to be a lifestyle. This should be self-control, should be part of our, lifestyle. Bring it that way so that you know where our boundaries are, where our limits are. And kids always, like children, they model, they see us as models, right? So if we don't model the behavior that we expect in them, they are not going to do that. They're just going to look at us and watch and, catch a lot. So we need to model the behavior that we expect in our children. So that's the only way to teach them now. Our lectures are not going to help them. What is actually going to help them is our life. That is what.
Mhm. Are there any other practical strategies, especially in terms of controlling the phone usage, both for the parents and for the kids? Are there any practical strategies which you otherwise suggest to your patients?
Yeah, for screen time, it's obviously coming to the screen time thing. So for that, we usually tell parents like have family rules. Yeah. Have family rules where it's going to help everyone. Like you set a time like, okay, 10:30 night, for example, 10:30, we set this time that by 10:30, all our phones will be in the living room. That is one way to manage, the late night sleeps. Kids, especially adolescents, their sleeping time these days are 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, early morning. So you can avoid a lot of unwanted, inappropriate content watching if you have a control on how you're going to use it. So usually we advise families like have family rules where you involve kids as well. You involve your children as well. Take their opinions, take their suggestions, and do it together. Make those rules together so that each one is bound to follow it. So that is one way. Another one is like we can all decide which apps we should have in our phones, have a control on what is downloaded. See, check your children's phone once in a while. Not as a controlling thing. Like it shouldn't be like a controlling way. It should be like for safety, Molly, this is for your safety. So that is why mama needs to go through it. So let's do it together. Sit with them. Do not do any spy work on them. Now sit with them and then we can go through it together. You can decide, you can choose on the apps that they should have. It should all turn like for your safety this is. So in that way, we can control a lot of it. But definitely as we said earlier, it should come from us first. They are watching us. So as a family, we can grow. We can have this learn self-control. We can have good qualities. And I think that's the best that we can advise.
Okay, no, that is super helpful. One thing which often is there, and that this phrase called generation gap, it was there when even I was growing up, and it looks like more evident now. One of the pushback which the kids or the or the teen gives the parents that the time has changed, you don't know how this is, or you don't know how these things work. And then also the problem of peer pressure, because even now when I see in my daughter, if something comes from us versus if something comes from, let's say, a teacher or friends, she would
Yeah.
immediately value that over what I have told her. Like she would always take my advice under suspicion versus what it comes from them. And I just shudder how things unfold once you grow up.
Yeah.
What can parents do when kids have that kind of an attitude towards suggestions or advice from parents? Is there any way out of this?
I don't think there is a way out of it. I would say that, see, as kids grow, they grow mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, socially. So these questions and these needs are part of their developmental, developmental issues, or this is all part of development. So they will have questions, they will have opinions, they will have, feelings that my mom doesn't know anything. My parents are not up to date. They are old, oldies. Such feelings, or it is there. It is very much evident. It is there within our children's, circle. So here to help is like it's better if parents can help themselves in this. You won't be able to change our children's mindset in this so much, because this is part of development. So this understanding is what parents need to have. It is part of development. It is part of them becoming independent. So such things, yes, we will hear a lot from our kids, but then it's all about, staying connected with them. You need to have those practical principles where you stay connected with them, you spend time with them. You spend time with our kids without making every conversation a lecture. You give them freedom gradually, like increase privileges as kids demonstrate responsibility. So that way they know that, yes, my parents are accommodating me. They shouldn't feel that they are oldies, but they understand us. Give them the feeling that we understand them. So for that, you can use these principles like listening before correcting them. Ask them questions like, help me understand why this is so important to you, before you give them advices. So, and then controlling every decision, avoid controlling them that way. You want them to learn maturity, then you need to allow them to make choices and then be with them in that. Be with them and take them, guide them. So you create a safe space for them. You stay connected to them. They'll have a control in how much they decide for themselves, and move their own way. So this is how we keep them grounded. I hope it helps.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's certainly, like as you mentioned, it looks like ultimately it's the relationship between the parents and the kids which actually makes or break this whole equation rather than anything else. Yeah, that
Yes.
is fundamental.
Yeah, you're
Because
right.
I feel sometimes is that now I am a parent now, so I can little bit criticize, parenting probably in one way. We often leave things to either the school, either the church to figure these things out for their kids, and so then they can deal with these issues. So like so as a parent, I'm working hard for you to access to have good schools, have good friends, and have good church and Sunday school and everything. So then it's their job to kind of fix these things for you. And again, personally feel that's a bad place to start with. One, that's not the right way to approach it. Your kids are still your responsibility. But then the other part of it is that church or school or such places, I personally don't think they are much equipped or worried about, apart from few let's say churches or places where I have seen that they have an intentionality to how they bring up their young adults. There hasn't been much movement on this from a church. Now I am assuming in your practice you might have got such experiences or patients or issues like that. What is your thought about how the church or school or such social institutions has been responding to these changes?
You're right. I mean, we do not get much support from schools or churches. Yeah. Though they are aware of the problems that children face today, we don't get much support from them. But then the thing is that from social media and the, internet, our children are exposed to countless voices and influences every day. So that confuses them. That's harmful for them. And they create doubts in them. They have this feeling of inadequacy, and they even feel abnormal. So I feel that more than church, yes, church has its role, but then more than that, parents need to play a role here. Parents need to lay a strong foundation before these outside influences begin to shape their child's thinking. From a very young age, parents can teach their children about God, His wonderful creation, and the truth that they are uniquely created. Parents can bring up a lot of such teachings, basically bring them close to God and let them know what is right, what is evil, what is wrong. You see, that sort of differences and get them on track. That is what a parent's role is. So keeping them again and again, reminding them, reminding them how much they are loved, how loved they are, how valued they are, that they are created by God with purpose. So all this, like how special they are, these things can actually bring changes to our kids. They will, that those voices will ring in them. I believe that parents must be the loudest voice of children. So that is there in one side. As well as if you look today, see, we are all part of some church, like the community feeling should be given for our kids. Like church can be a powerful partner for parents in raising children with a healthy, faith anchored view of their identity and sexuality, especially. So yes, church needs to come up. They need to realize that this is part of their role as well. Pastors might not be equipped, like how to lead them exactly, but then still, I believe that church is a community because it provides a community. It's a place where children see faith lived, not just spoken. So if kids grow up surrounded by worship, teaching, fellowship, then they learn that their birth comes from God and not from social media or peer pressure. Yeah. And then church, if church can equip parents through sermons, through counseling, through family programs, that would really help. And also, church can even affirm God's design, like by teaching children from a very young age that they are wonderfully made. When it comes from church, that creates a difference. It's not just parents alone talking to them about this, but it's coming from church as well. So that will definitely help our children grow up with clarity, with confidence, and knowing exactly what God's purpose is, for them, knowing the deep sense of God's love. But this is definitely going to help. Unfortunately, we do not have that in our midst much. But I should say, yeah, churches are coming up. Not exactly the traditional churches, but the others are coming up with Sunday school, change in Sunday school curriculum where they include a chapter, for that particular grade where they teach them what is, sexuality and identity. So that will give them a good base, a good foundation where the trends of social media will not, take them, carry them that way.
Mm. Okay, that's so helpful. I was reading an article a couple of years back, which was an American church, and they were sending out one of their kids to university, and the prayer was something similar to the fact that, oh well, we have done whatever we could. Now he is going to university. God, it's upon you, and you figure it out. And like we are off our hook or responsibility. So now he had to face the world on its own, and now they have pinned it upon God, saying that you figure it out, and
Yeah.
our responsibility stops. So
Yeah.
and so it was in the context that how we sometimes like have failed up front for the fact that the kids we are not preparing our kids to their adult adult life, whether it is uni or any ways like that. One, so of course you have most of your practice based in India, and you kind of see parents or adolescent people from there. So now I live in the UK, and I can see a bit more different perspective of where the parents are born and brought up in India,
Yeah.
and they have a very different set of ideas and values, and their kids who are growing up who are either born in the UK or have moved to the UK when they were very young, and they're a very different
Uh, yeah.
culture or society around them. Does that overcomplicate it? Like, what are your insights that, like, does it makes it bit more difficult from an identity perspective? Because what I have felt is that, and this is regardless of any religion or particular society per se, parents want their kids to be like them, and they want to put bit extra pressure on children that you have to eat this, be like this, or dress like this, and speak Hindi, Malayalam, Tamil, whatever that is. And kids are almost opposite to that. Like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want this food, I don't want this.
Yeah.
Like my own daughter, she she is like, I am an Indian, but I live in the UK now. So although she loves Indian food, which is a which is a
Yeah.
great to me, but she knows that she wants to be identified more with the culture which is around her and not what she sees in me. What are your advice to parents who are in this situation where there's a pull from their own side that their kids also grow up the way they are? And I don't think it's an unreasonable request, but it is also not that much practical, because when your kids are growing up in a very different environment, what would be your advice for those parents, how they can navigate this particular challenge?
That's a bit tricky question, but
Yeah.
So this is a common challenge for many immigrant families. Parents naturally want to preserve their culture, their language, values, and traditions, because for them, these are part of their identity and part of their heritage. So at the same time, children who are growing up in the UK, they are influenced by the culture around them every day. So they often feel that they belong to both these worlds, and this can create tension if they feel forced to choose over the other. So a child who has been born and brought up in the UK will naturally gravitate towards many aspects of British culture. Like they may prefer pasta over rice simply because, that is what they are exposed to in school among friends. Like my grandson, who's just 1.5 years old, he goes to the nursery, and he prefers pasta over rice. So this is this is not necessarily a rejection of Indian culture. It is actually a reflection of the environment in which they are growing up. So rather than seeing this as disobedience, it helps to understand it as a normal part of their development. So it's wonderful to teach children Malayalam at home, introduce them to Indian food and Indian clothes, family traditions, and all this will help them. Like this will help them surely to appreciate their roots. However, expecting them to speak more Malayalam than English, or expecting them to memorize Bible verses only in Malayalam, that may not be realistic or fair. We can't see that as fair enough. So like imagine if someone told the parents that from now on they should communicate only in English, only in English at home, and read only the English Bible. Like, how will the parents take it? Most parents would find that difficult, like because Malayalam is a language in which they think, they pray, and they express. So, in the same way, English is a language in which many children raised in the UK naturally think and communicate. So, my message to parents is like distinguish between culture and values. See, many cultural practices, such as our food preferences or clothing styles or language, you know, that can be flexible and can be adapted over time. However, the core values like respect or compassion, responsibility, and even faith, they are far more important and should be nurtured intentionally. So rather than insisting on every cultural practice, help your children understand the meaning behind your traditions. So if parents desire their children to be brought up exactly as they would have been in India, it is also worth asking whether living in India would, better support their goal. So we need to understand that the environment plays a powerful role in shaping children. So it is difficult to expect children to grow up entirely according to Indian culture while they are immersed every day in a different society. So our expectations need to be realistic and consistent with the environment, in which the family has chosen to live. So,
Mm.
as Christian parents, you know, what we can do is like, we, our ultimate goal is not simply to raise children who follow a particular culture, but to raise children who love God and follow
Mhm.
biblical principles or culture.
Mm.
So, reflect Christ's character and, make wise choices wherever they live.
Mm.
Isn't that fair?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that is true. I really like the your distinction between culture and values and which is more important. No, thank you for
Yeah.
that.
This is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah,
What
tell me.
what I have seen is that there's a bit of pressure, peer pressure on parents to bring up their kids in this Indian way or whatever way that is, and it's I always feel this funny that Monday to Saturday evening and even after Sunday evening, we all wear Western dress, and which is
Yeah.
probably right. So only on Sunday suddenly they all changes to Indian dress, and have always wondered that why we keep doing it. So my relatives are there in US for like long time, and when they come, and there was a time when I was living in Kerala in Kochi, so one of my job was them to take them to shopping at all these alukas and kalyan and buy them
Okay.
these churidars and everything. And I would ask them, why are you buying it? Where do you wear it? And they were like, "No, we have to wear in church because if you don't, it's a huge problem." And then there's a very odd, unhealthy competition of who looks Indian a lot.
Yeah.
I hope they don't listen to this podcast at least. And I have been always fascinated by that one fact, that why it is that, we somehow wants to feel Indian in the church, but then we are okay to go back. And I guess now the kids see through that,
Yeah.
and they could see that kind of a double standard, and
Yes.
hence it becomes a bit more challenging in the way we raise them up. Thank you so much for this. I have one more question before we move and have some fun things. Would Let's say we we have parents whose kids are young adults and teens. They were not able to have that conversation when they were growing up, or had that trust or safe space, or let's say parents avoided it. Now because of certain challenges, now they
Yeah.
want to take the correct steps. What would be your advice for them?
See, no parent is perfect. That's something that we need to get this in our system. But we are not perfect. We are just human. Yeah. And every parent makes mistakes.
Mhm.
Every parent, because we are vulnerable people. There is not one parent who's been perfect. I was never perfect. Yeah.
Mhm.
Are you? So
No.
this is, yeah, this is there in us that yes, we have not been perfect, but perfection is not what we want to give our kids. Our kids also do not want us to be perfect. But then, see, most of us raise our children based on what we experienced growing up, you know, what we observed in others, what we appreciated or disagreed with our own parents. So, and what we sincerely believed was best for our children at that time. That is what, we did. That is what we do. So we have our seasons where, we parents have our seasons. We have our seasons where we go through stress, we go through exhaustion, emotional outbursts. That doesn't mean we failed as parents. We can always come back. We can always apologize to our children. We can honestly talk to them, and can always approach I believe, the throne of grace for our shortcomings. Yeah. So there is always a comeback by the grace of God. And that's the hope that we need to have. So
Mm.
mistakes can be a part of the story, but they don't define our relationship with our children. It doesn't have to pull us back. We can always be there, correct us. If at all, okay, I've done a mistake, I realized it, I can always go to my child. I can explain my side. And I'm sure kids, they're not looking for perfect parents. They are looking for understanding parents. Those who would, take some time to listen to them and understand them. That's all kids are looking for. So, I think we shouldn't worry much about, we can have this peace that, yes, it's possible. for correction always.
Mhm. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was super helpful. I was just thinking, listening to this whole conversation, how the responsibilities on parents. Years back, I was struggling professionally. I was, promoted to manager, and I quite didn't knew what to do as a new manager. I felt everybody around me hated me. So I bought this book. It was a Harvard Business Review book on perception and what to do. And I opened the first page, which had the intro, and the intro was something like this: if somebody has a bad perception of you, it's your mistake and not theirs.
Yeah.
And I was so upset with that. I just picked the book and throw it around. I'm like, come on, I paid to get a book which was supposed to make me happy and feel validated. And instead, the first line was, "It is your problem, Sherin." And I just threw the book away. And then pick it up after that, I read and I realize, how wrong I was, how people perceive you. So your point, like, I guess one summary which I feel is that we as parents should take, approach these things with intention and do the more difficult job, and not expecting the kids to come to you and then lay everything on you, because they are fighting their own different battles there. So I guess that was the summary of it. But before we close, some at least end this on some happy note. What do you usually do unwind after a busy or stressful day at work? What do you do?
After busy work,
Yeah, yeah.
I eat. I eat.
Good one. Similar to me. Any favorite foods? Any favorite food?
Yes, without doubt, it's chicken burger.
Huh? You say no.
Like, everyone who knows me, everyone who is close to me, they all know this. That this is what I do when I'm, after a busy, real stressful work day.
Uh-huh.
I just rush down. I'm in my workplace, which is upstairs.
Yes.
So I rush down, and there will be a chicken burger there waiting for me.
Interesting you said chicken burgers. So, I mean, of course, burger is a Western food and it
Yeah,
has
yeah.
come off late to India. But I have eaten way more better burgers in India compared to what I have seen in the UK. And we have way more enjoyed it back in
Yes, in
India
UK.
compared to here.
Yeah, I was in UK, and I saw that, like, McDonald's was so different here and there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the burgers here, not there.
Yeah, that is true. What was the most funniest question any of your patient or even a child would have asked you? The most funniest thing?
Once a 10-year-old boy, 10-year-old boy asked me in a crowd. I mean, it was a group class, and in that class, he asked me, Auntie, at what age can I have sex? Yeah. So that was quite, it came as a shock
As a
and
shock to
surprise.
you.
Yeah,
Mhm. At least he was honest to ask you,
yeah, it's too
which
honest,
is
yeah.
which is actually quite good. I was famously known in my church that in the middle of sermon, I raised my hand and asked, "Is love marriage correct or wrong?" I was a guest pastor. Everybody got shocked, like, "What's wrong with this guy?"
Sorry.
But at least it is good that people ask. If you're not a counselor, would you have been still in accounting and banking, or would you have preferred anything else?
No, I won't be a banker, or I won't be in accounts too, because I had actually resigned my, job at a very early stage. I was not a counselor. I would still be listening to someone. Yeah, I
Oh,
would be doing that.
amazing.
I can't think of anything else. Yeah.
Anything else? Amazing. This is the last one, and we'll get you off the hook. If you had one superpower to help, your patients as parents or young adults, what would it be?
If I had a superpower, it would be the ability to truly see someone's heart, you see, and X-ray vision of the heart.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. But I
That's
understand
great.
that, I mean, that
Mhm. Mhm.
I usually, find kids like adolescent teenagers when they come, they take a lot of effort in explaining what's actually happening. So yeah, I think I should have an X-ray vision of their heart, so then I know what is happening. Yeah.
What to do. Great. Migy Sajan, thank you so much for this. This has been absolutely brilliant. And I hope that people who would listen to this would be helpful. And I hope people comment and ask more questions. So probably we do another round of it at some point, maybe a bit more pointed on, some of those topics. But thank you so much. And it was a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Sherin. Thank you for having me here, and really, I'm also grateful for this time and for selecting me here. I hope
No worries.
your podcast gives a big hit, and all the best. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What a deeply grounding and practical conversation with Migy. My biggest takeaway today is that raising kids in God's design isn't about panicking over cultural shifts. It's about establishing open, age-appropriate communication long before crisis hits. Grace and truth must always lead the way in our homes. If this conversation gave you clarity, please take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and share it with another parent, Sunday school teacher, or a youth leader who need this today. Drop a comment below letting us know what is one boundary or conversation you plan to start in your home this week. Bye-bye.